Thank you for coming. Guess I don't want to stand. Can you see everything okay? All right, I want to make sure you can see. I'll move over here. My name is Derek Meyer, and I'm with Wilson and Company. I'm the design manager for the project. Appreciate y'all coming. See some familiar faces. We've been out here a couple times before, and actually this is our final public meeting for the Raton project on this one. What we'd like to do, we'll go through a presentation for about 20-30 minutes, and if you could hold your general project questions till the end, I'd appreciate that. If you'd like me to clarify something on a slide specifically, go ahead and ask me the question on that one in particular, but if it's a general project question or concern, let's wait till the end. We can do introductions, or wait, I'm sorry, that's the next slide, isn't it? See, I'm jumping. This is our project study team. Of course, the Federal Highway Administration is funding the project. The New Mexico Department of Transportation is the project leader, and they are running the show and facilitating the project. Wilson and Company, that's my company. We're the design consultant that was hired by the New Mexico DOT. Marin and Associates is our environmental consultant. Terracon, Bob is here. He's our geotechnical consultant. Sauter Miller Associates is another consultant that's doing design for us. And Cobb Finley Associates is doing our utility designating and potholing. These are the study team members that are here with us tonight. If you want to, maybe acknowledge yourself when I call your name. Chris Urioste with District 4. He's our project development engineer, so he's the one you call and talk to if I get out of hand. Ms. Heather Sandoval with District 4, she's the assistant district engineer over there. John Duran with District 4 is you're the project manager? Yes. Okay, get that right. And Mr. Jim Hirsch from the environmental group, he's there from Santa Fe. For ourselves, for Wilson and Company, myself, and then Ms. Audra Gallegos helping me on the roadway and geometrics, and Mr. Drew Daumuller. He's doing the bridge and the retaining wall, the structural design. And then back here, back in the back, he lost his tie. Oh, he felt over. It's Bob Myers with Terracon. And I'd like to acknowledge Ron Schmeitz, our commissioner. I appreciate you giving us the facility here tonight. Again, I thank you very much. Is there anything anybody want to say before I get started? Good. Ron, you good? Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So this is the I-25 Raton construction project, and we've gone over it a couple times, so I killed a lot of the introduction slides. A lot of people want to know what's going on and what's the schedule. So the schedule currently, and I don't expect you to see this with your eyes, I can't even see it, but currently we've finished a lot of the project information up here. We are still working on right-of-way and some environmental clearance right in here, but this is our project design right now. And we're at, I actually will explain it later, but we're splitting up the projects. And so this is the status of Project 1, which is called the Exit 460 project. Right now, so this is January, February. So right in here is where we're sitting on the design schedule. So what we've done is we just recently finished the 90% design submittal and review. And so now we are working ourselves into what is called the PS&E, Plan Specs and Estimate review, design submittal. That is the very last design review that we would be turning in to the New Mexico DOT for their review and comment. Once we finish that particular design review, we will address their comments and turn the final plans in to the New Mexico DOT for them to put out for bidding. And so bidding and letting would be scheduled in the April, roughly that's in the end of April is when that's going to happen. And then the DOT has a process. They have to make sure it's ready to go out for bid, and then they have to advertise it, and it'll take a couple months to go through that process. And then when the bids come in, it takes about a month or so for a contract to get executed. So you're not looking for construction until late late summer, early fall of this year for this project. And I'll explain what this project means. So this is graphics. So we've come to you in various stages of the project design. These are the other stages that we've already completed, the studies. We are still working on the environmental documentation. It's pretty much completed with a few items left to finish. And once those items left to finish, then that one is done. The preliminary design is done, and right now we are working on what is called final design. As you can see, the next step would be construction, and we will be splitting those three projects into, splitting the whole project into three separate projects. And Ms. Audra is going to explain them to you. Oh wait, you moved the slide, I'm sorry. So purpose and need of the project, we want to fall back. The reason we're doing the projects, for those of you that are familiar with the corridor, there are rock slide areas throughout the entire corridor, roughly 10, is that right? Roughly 10 locations that have rock slides. So we are trying to go through and provide mitigation to prevent those rock slides from continuing to happen, make it safer for the driving public, and make it safer for the New Mexico DOT staff that have to go out there and maintain the roads. There are also issues with some of the roadway embankments that we're looking at to verify if we have to do any stabilization. Some areas, there's been some historic failures on the road. We're looking at whether or not we have to go through and do some additional stabilization. Drainage improvements, there's a lot of drainage going underneath the road. We're going to make sure that those pipes are sized correctly and that they get replaced if they need to be replaced. If they've gone beyond their useful life, if they're falling apart, we want to replace those and put in new structures. The pavement is probably one of the biggest things out there. The pavement is continuing to fall apart over the years, so we will be going through and doing not a full pavement reconstruction, but what is called a pavement rehabilitation. So basically, there's a lot of pavement out there. We're going to mill out several inches, upwards of 5 to sometimes 8 to 9 inches of pavement, and we're going to come back and put new pavement in its place. So it would have a much better riding surface and last longer. We are dealing with the interchange geometrics. Exit 460 right there at the Colorado state line. That one needs to be redone. The geometrics on the ramps are no longer sufficient. They're unsafe, and so new design guidelines are requiring us to increase the geometrics and improve those. Access control, we're trying to control any illegal access if there is any out there. We have been talking to property owners. There are property owners that do have legal access on the interstate, so they are providing that information to us, and we're just verifying that they do have the proper information and access. For those of you that are out there, probably this is one of the most things you'll see out there is wildlife vehicle collisions. There's a lot of bear and there's a lot of deer and elk out there that are getting hit. I think there's a ton of bears compared to other areas of New Mexico. So as part of our project, we're going to be putting up wildlife fencing throughout the corridor, and we have a wildlife crossing that we're going to go over and show you as well. And then we're going to do some ITS improvements to help people get awareness of what the driving conditions are in the area. And we've been looking at the snowplow access for the maintenance guys. So those are the main purpose and needs for us to do the project. And I'm going to let Ms. Audra talk about the project splits.
So the first project is going to focus on exit 460. It'll consist of interchange reconstruction and then mainline I-25 improvements between the project limits. This will also include ITS improvements. It'll just consist of the conduit manholes and pull boxes. The fiber and RWIS won't be installed until project 2. The drainage crossings and culverts will also be included in project 1. Lighting at the exit 460 ramps and at the port of entry will also be constructed. And then there's going to be a right-of-way take on the west side of I-25, and we'll do fencing for that new right-of-way take. And the POE, the port of entry parking lot, will be reconstructed and concrete pavement. And this green section is what project 1 consists of. So project 2 will be exit 454 and the safety improvements. It'll have interchange ramp widening, so we'll add acceleration and deceleration lanes to the interchange. It'll also have I-25 improvements within the project area, so it'll have rehabilitation of mainline I-25. The bridge at exit 454 will also be rehabbed, and lighting at the ramps will be included. The drainage crossings at exit 454 and also between exit 454 and exit 460 will be included as part of this project. The ITS is when the fiber and the RWIS will be installed, and the rockfall mitigation along the entire I-25 corridor will be mitigated. Game fencing will be added throughout I-25, and there will also be a wildlife crossing at milepost 458. So the orange will have exit 454 reconstruction, and also there's orange dashed lines are the rock cut slopes that will be fixed. And then the wildlife crossing is located right here about milepost 458. And then the last project will just be mainline I-25. So we'll rehab I-25, and then also if there's any guardrail that needs to be replaced, will also be done at that time on any concrete wall barrier. And the bluish is project 3.
Thank you, Audra. So the timing, we talked about a little bit of the timing. Project 1 is the one that we're going to be finishing up, and that's the schedule I gave you. Projects 2 and 3 are going to fall in subsequent years. I'm not saying exactly subsequent years. It all depends on the funding that the district does receive. So don't necessarily think that they're going to fall one right after the other. Subsequent years of funding will be determining when those get built at this moment. So that's about as much as we know at this time. This is exit 460 layouts. For those of you that hadn't been to previous meetings, this is the new interchange up at this Colorado state line. So this is what we're calling Project 1. For those of you who are familiar with it, the state line is right here off to the right of the picture. And this is the actual existing bridge that is out there today. As part of this project, that bridge will end up being removed, and a new bridge will be built, I forgot how many, it's maybe 1,000 some feet south. And so it's actually going to be south of the Raton Pass Camp, and this is the port of entry right there. So in lieu of seeing it here, you're going to see a new bridge over here. The new interchange, of course, will be a normal diamond type interchange. We've explained that in the past. We went through several alternatives to look at how we can make this a more simplified interchange that people understand going in and out of. And we are getting rid of what we consider a very unsafe condition with a one-way ramp turning into a two-way frontage road where people could actually go down the wrong way on the ramp and enter the interstate going the wrong way. So we're going to fix that. That basically gets fixed with this configuration up here. So what you're seeing here is this is the old ramp right now in that spot, and this is the existing frontage road. The new ramp is going to take off in a similar location, but it's going to come out here and it's going to rise up higher. Just note that the reason we have to go up higher at a steeper grade is this bridge, of course, has to go 20-some feet over the top of the interstate. So this ramp is nice and flat, and it's not having to go over the interstate. So when it gets built, this will be a much steeper ramp to get up to this point, and then you can either go left or right. If you go right, you can get on the frontage road, go to the Raton Pass Camp, or you can go left and go across. And this is going to be a new frontage road that'll get you over to the port of entry. For those that work there, that'll be their access in and out of the port of entry on a daily basis. There will be a new entrance ramp right here that takes you onto northbound I-25 in lieu of the one that's out here off the sheet in Colorado. So it's more, they're confined, the ramps are next to each other, and so you can actually see how to get on and off. Sometimes it's a little confusing when the ramp is way down several thousand feet away. On the southbound, what we did was we actually, current conditions, you have to get off at the port of entry exit. That is also the exit for the vehicles. So you're mixed with, you're in line with the trucks that are going into the port of entry. So now the exit will get you, this is the port of entry exit now. So that's going to stay there. The trucks will use that exit. We have a new exit that's just south of it, and to get off, you would actually peel off here and go up to that point. So you don't have to go through the port of entry now to actually get off at the exit anymore. It makes it a little more simplified for everybody that's not used to it. The trucks that do go through the port of entry will go through as they normally do, and they will meet back up with people that are on this exit ramp. And everybody, being the trucks and vehicles, would actually come down on a new southbound entrance ramp right there. And that, again, will be a steeper ramp, of course, because of the grades for the bridge. Audra mentioned there's going to be a right-of-way take. We've mentioned that to Jeannie Myers, and we'll continue to coordinate with her, but this is about a 1 acre parcel of right-of-way that we need to purchase for that frontage road connection there. And I think that's it. Rockfall. I'm going to let Bob talk about geotechnical and rockfall and how he's going to fix it.
So I appreciate the more informal and relaxed atmosphere of this public hearing versus what we see in Albuquerque. So thank you. So Mike Anderson, the principal of the Terracon office in Albuquerque, presented some of this previously at our past public hearing. And I'm basically the geotechnical project manager for Terracon. So we have focused in on a build alternative 2, which we call a low maintenance and address the safety issues of the rockfall mitigation. We had a build alternative 1, which was zero maintenance, lots of dollars. This concept was about a $7 million fix to take that approach, whereas the build alternative 2 is about a little over a $2 million budget. And our approach is basically to through what's called cushion blasting for stability, where we need to get into the existing slopes, either with massive sandstone or to lay back slopes. We'll be looking at cushion blasting, which protects the slope from future damage. There'll be a lot of rock scaling, and this is where you actually have I call them rock monkeys. You get up on the slopes and you're actually pulling down the boulders and popping them out and putting in small charges just to get the loose rock down below where they can be removed. And there will be some selective soil and rock anchors with shotcrete primarily where we need to protect for erosion, which will be in the shale beds. The build alternative 3 is not an option. We're going to take care of the problem. So this is the major rock cut, which is about $1 million fix, and this is south of milepost 456, and it's about a 1,000-foot run. You can see the mess here of rockfall and boulders and just all kinds of instability problems that are taking place. So these sandstone units are pretty stable. They're not a problem. It's really this shale bedding here, which is called a Pierre shale by its geologic term. And what happens is this is very unstable when it becomes wet and erodes. It degrades, and so we have inner beds of shale and sandstone, and the sandstone on top then starts toppling and falling down into our shoulder area there. So it's a big problem for the district in terms of maintenance, and of course it's a safety issue if any of this rock gets into the interstate. So we have, you can go on, we have 3 geologists who covered all 10 of these slopes. What they do is they go up there and they actually map the slopes, and they do what's called rock slope mapping, where they're identifying the major joint sets. And they come up with a diagram here that's called a stereo net plot. It's, this is what I call it's a combination of art and science, okay? The geologists will call it science. I think there's some art to this too. But what they do is they identify through this where the risk is in terms of toppling and wedge failures. And this is kind of the first blush, and then they go into and actually do stability analysis also. And with the stability analysis, there's a program called the Colorado Rockfall Simulation Program, where this is a program that actually models rockfall and determines where the rock will end up. And so the computer program goes through and throws a couple hundred rocks over this slope, and we can get a pretty good handle on how big of a rockfall catchment we need in order to capture that rock. On the previous slide, the goal is 95% catchment. Usually we can get 100% catchment. But some locations, because of cost, the Federal Highway Administration allows 5% to get past or to get into the shoulder or even into the travel lanes. So simply because we do this engineering does not mean necessarily that you'll see no rock on the pavement ever. So this is where we are, just in a very general way at our 90% design. Where we have the massive sandstone, we're doing a pretty steep cut where we need to cut back into the rock. So this is a 1/4 horizontal to 1 vertical with that cushion blasting. Generally, throughout the project where we have existing 1-to-1 interbedded shale and sandstone, there'll be a lot of scaling. There will be soil and rock nails with shotcrete to protect those erodible layers. And this will be where the catchment is adequate, current catchment is adequate. Where the current catchment is not adequate through that rockfall simulation program, we will have to, again, blast and take the slope back into the existing slope to improve that catchment. So this is just a very general strategy that we're taking. And so the final result, this is an example of a slope that was with cushion blasting. You get a very nice, clean rock face there. The scaling has taken place. We have a rockfall catchment at the bottom. This particular one, because it's so close, the catchment here is so close, and this one is so high, we have a fence here that's present, but that rockfall fencing will probably not, you probably won't see that on this project. Just simply the wall barrier will be adequate. And where required, we take care of the erosion issues through these anchors and more than likely shotcrete treatments to prevent the erosion of these shale beds that are degrading. So that's the general approach there.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob.
You bet.
I'll go ahead and explain the wildlife crossing, but I'll open up to Jim if you do want to say anything. I don't know if you do or not. So I know you're here, so I know in the back you're interested in the game and fish, you're interested in this one. So as part of the project, of course, there's a lot of vehicle collisions with bears and animals, deer, elk. So our biologist went out with his staff, and they did a study of the entire corridor to determine what kind of animal activity is out there, what kind of patterns they're doing. And he actually walked throughout the entire corridor to determine what would be suitable habitat and suitable areas for them to potentially cross under the road instead of crossing over the top of the road. Because basically when Project 2 gets installed, you will have an 8-foot high fence along the entire state right-of-way there that will prevent them from getting into the area. So they're going to go to their normal spots where they probably walk, and they're going to hit that fence, not hit it, well, they're going to walk along the fence probably, is what we'll hope they'll do. And when they walk along the fence, in time, they will probably learn that the fence will allow them to walk through this, what is called a concrete box culvert. It's a big 14-foot wide by 10-foot high structure. So imagine 14-foot high by 10-foot high. It's not going to be for drainage. It's going to be strictly for the wildlife. In fact, you can see right here, this is actually the drainage crossing that's out there today. It's actually a lot lower, and the biologist was saying that the bears are actually crossing through this currently right now. So and what we did was we set it up so they could still go through that one as well. But what you're going to see is this one is a lot shorter, and it's got an open hole in the middle. This is currently a spot where it's paved in the median, so it opens up. And the reason we did this, it's studies, I'm assuming, that the biologists have done, but basically the animals, and you could probably tell me more than anything, but the animal will not want to go through the crossing if it's too long and if it's too narrow. So we wanted to make sure it was wide enough, tall enough, and short enough that they could see the light at the other end of the tunnel and they feel comfortable going through it, because a lot of them will feel like if they're going through it, they're going to get hit by a predator somewhere inside or on the other side. So they have to feel comfortable in doing it. So these are about, this one I think is 70 feet long and this one's about 65 feet long. And what we did was we buried it. You can see it's underneath the existing highway, and this is the existing ground up here. So it will cut, we're basically taking a hole and digging a hole out in the middle of the interstate there, and we're going to put a fence around it so that they can't get up and out and into the thing. So this is the fence line coming in, going around, and going back out. So that's the fence that they're going to be walking along, and then they could come in and just walk straight through and go back and forth. It'll take time for them to get used to it probably, but eventually they'll see it. What we don't want is all you hunters out there to be standing over here waiting for them. No. Just, I told that to some of the guys at the office. They're like, oh, really? Where's that at? Where are you going to go? I'm like, guys, leave it alone. Leave it alone. But yeah, this will be a good spot for them to cross. It'll prevent all the bears and vehicle collisions, because hitting a bear going 65 miles an hour is, I'm sure somebody's got it, is immense damage to your vehicle. So hopefully that'll stop all the bear and deer and elk collisions. Did I miss anything, Jim?
Yeah, you pretty much covered it. I mean, the challenge with this project in terms of providing wildlife passage is that the slopes on the interstate, the drop-off slopes towards Raton Creek's are really steep. The depth of the bedrock, there's just very limited opportunities to provide wildlife passage. And even the size of these concrete wall barriers are actually really marginal for deer. Unlikely that an elk would use this, but bear and cougar and other small mammals would readily use this particular crossing. But on the plus side, even though this project doesn't provide, a large number of passage for wildlife, the plus side though is you got Raton Creek on one side that provides water for the deer, elk, and other wildlife, and then you've got Savage Creek on the other side of the highway and some various stock ponds and stuff like that. So the resources are kind of distributed evenly between one side of the highway and the other side of the highway. And Glenn, did you?
From a wildlife standpoint, we've worked with the DOT, and we picked out this location for this crossing. We would like to have more, but again, as Jim said, the way the highway is constructed the whole way, this is really the only viable place that we can even put a wildlife crossing in there. What's concerning to me is, my concern is I don't want wildlife to go up north and then try to cross and have a big stream of deer and elk and bears crossing at the top of the pass. That's going to be really the location where the fence ends. There's not another underpass until the Wooten exit, several miles at the bottom of that steep slope on the Colorado side. So again, it's not perfect. We're just trying to mitigate what's happening right now with the hundreds of wildlife collisions that are happening there every year.
Thank you. Appreciate that input. So that is the end, and we finished before our deadline. Good. That is the end of our presentation. Again, even though we've come to you a couple times and we've taken comments, we are always open to comments from the public. Several ways of doing it. We don't have a comment box, but we can, or do we? No. So there are comment forms that were on the table out here. If you want to write down your comment on the form, put your information on there. You can either hand it to myself or Audra. We'll take that back and give it to Eric, who keeps that. Eric, you can email him right here if you want to write his email address down. He's the environmental consultant that works for us. He basically takes all public input and puts it in the environmental document. You can fax him there, or you can actually mail it to him. We'll go ahead and, once we finish this, we'll leave this up on the screen so anybody can write that information down. I believe this same information is on the comment form as well, so if you see it on there. And is there anything else? Okay, and we can leave this up here for a little while. Chris's information there, in case you want to get in touch with him, or my information if you want to get in touch with me for questions that follow up. If you just want a general question, you can send it to either one of us. And is that it?